Erased Destiny 2, The Knower. Chapter 3, Price of Tranquility. Before the trial, Etienne told Phineas everything she had learned during the investigation. She placed Lucretia's favorite shoes in a prominent place in the courtroom and gathered all the people relevant to the case in the waiting room. She was proud of the work she had done, even more than during the trials at the Crystal Palace, where one word from her constituted a verdict. In Sintra, she had to work harder to make sure the murderer received a just punishment. Etienne entered the hall first, followed by the judge, and Torden, slightly paler than he was before, with his hands clenched on an elegant cane. Despite the cold, Torden dressed as if for a picnic and wore a black top hat and black, long coat only. No fur, no gloves, no scarf even.
We will begin the trial by questioning the victim. The knower, please summon Lucretia's spirit.
At the sight of his murdered wife, Torden became whiter than a court ceiling. The color of his skin contrasted so sharply with the black of his hat that the man seemed to be dead.
Lucretia, tell us about your marriage to Torden.
Everything what Phineas said, Marigold repeated, so that the ghost would answer. Although the judge had been present at Lucretia's earlier hearing, according to procedures, he had to hear everything again, this time in front of the defendant.
Torden is a terrible husband. He is sleeping until noon, then eating breakfast, going out on the town, returning in the evening and often in the middle of the night. I did not interest him, only paintings. The whole house was filled with awful works of art that he told me to admire.
Did he use violence against you?
Torden is a quiet man, phlegmatic and spineless. He never hit me, never raised his voice at me. For that I often shouted at him. Not infrequently in front of people.
Why did you yell at him?
Having to listen to his wife's testimony clearly irritated Torden. The man gave the impression that he wanted to leave the courtroom. He even asked,
"And what does it matter? Lucretia is dead and you were supposed to punish the perpetrator, not to analyze our life together."
He does not remember anything I asked him. He dresses unfashionably. He prefers to sip beer in a men's group rather than go to a party. And if he did go, he sat with this suffering face and waited for me to let him go home.
Tell me about what happened on the day you died.
Marigold silenced, gasping Torden. She considered additionally restraining him with ivy to prevent him from escaping the courtroom, but on a sign given by the judge, guards stood at the door, blocking the exit.
I got up in the morning, and surprisingly so did Torden. I was happy because I thought we would go to a poetry meeting together, but he just ate 2 eggs and left. I put on a white dress. While I was arranging my hairstyle, Torden returned. He must have frozen because he seemed to be shivering all over. I made him a cup of hot tea. I asked if he would go with me to the library. He declined.
How did you react?
I started shouting at him. I was so angry. He did not accompany me anywhere. People were gossiping about us, that we were divorced already, what was not true. I was living alone in that house, without children even, because Torden didn't have sex with me at all. Torden said that he had bought me a gift and had hidden it in my dressing table. I bent down and started looking, but I didn't see anything new. I felt a pain in my back. Darkness surrounded me.
Was there anyone in the house besides you? Did you see any strangers? Where was Torden when you were looking for the gift?
From the beginning, Marigold was surprised that the statement about the absence of others in the kitchen was not enough to convict Torden. However, she trusted Phineas and his assessment of the evidence.
Upstairs the maid was cleaning our bedroom. I could hear her footsteps above us, as she was a woman of no small stature. The cook had gone out shopping and the gardener had previously prepared a supply of wood, so he had the day off. No strangers were in the house. Torden sat at the table and drank tea. He was few steps from me.
Did you break anything that day? And was any window broken?
I didn't break anything since I moved in this house. All the windows were whole.
After giving the lie to the story told by Torden, Phineas asked for another witness.
Miss Felicia, the victim's neighbor, is that correct?
Yes, of course. I live in a neighboring house, and Lucretia and I often talked.
What were you doing on the day of Lucretia's death?
First, I was getting ready for a poetry meeting. Torden rarely accompanied Lucretia, and I, as an old widow, was also going alone, so that's how we encouraged each other. So on my way to the library, I visited Lucretia. The first thing I noticed was a broken window. Glass was lying on the snow, but the opening was very small, like a fist, too small for someone to squeeze through. I thought Lucretia couldn't stand it and hurled a candy cane or something similar at Torden.
Felicia's testimony made everyone smile except Torden, who, for a change, began to sway as if he had drunk too much that morning. Etienne dismissed the spirit of the deceased and waited for the star of the morning, the beggar.
Why would Lucretia throw objects at her husband?
Because she was an impulsive woman. More than once she darted so that the whole street heard her. So I looked inside and saw Lucretia lying on the floor, a knife sticking out of her back, her white dress covered in blood. I wanted to run for the guards, but I heard someone coming. So I hid behind a pile of wood. It was Torden with the guards. So I came back home.
Thank you, ma'am. Let us hear the accused Zenobius now.
The surprise on Torden's face quickly turned into an almost vampiric pallor when Marigold placed a brown leather bag on the table, in which he recognized his former property.
You are accused of breaking into Torden and Lucretia's house, murdering Lucretia and stealing her jewelry. Where have you been 10 days ago on morning?
What? I said I got the bag. And in it those necklaces. I didn't break in anywhere. TFU. I didn't kill anyone. I was begging at the market, like every day.
From whom did you get the bag?
From that gentleman over there. He threw the bag to me and walked away as fast as he could.
Phineas turned to Marigold and asked,
Is the accused lying?
No, he is not.
Torden, do you want to change your testimony?
For the first time that day, Torden was asked to speak. Marigold cancelled the silencing spell to allow him to speak, but the man only shook his head.
You are accused of murdering your wife Lucretia. If you do not present a credible alibi, you will be convicted and beheaded. Do you realize the position you are in?
I realize. But I have nothing to say.
Marigold looked into his thoughts. They were full of suppressed hatred for his wife, for the parties she took him to, for all her female friends and neighbors. For years, Torden had dreamed of peace and quiet, the return of his bachelor life, and the absence of Lucretia in his home. He would have divorced if he could afford to return Lucretia's dowry. But he spent most of the money on paintings, and the income from book sales decreased year after year. It was as if people stopped reading.
In that case, I find you guilty of Lucretia's murder and sentence you to death. You will remain in the court building until your sentence is carried out.
And me? Will I get my bag back?
You are free to go. The bag will remain here as an evidence in the case. After Torden's execution, you will be able to take it back.
The witnesses left. The guards took Torden away, and Phineas continued to sit in the judge's chair. It was as if he suddenly ran out of strength.
Are you feeling bad?
I'm not used to it yet. To killing people. I know it's a just sentence, that Torden committed the crime, but still. He will die.
The sooner the job is done, the sooner you forget about the case. And maybe, thanks to this verdict, another unhappy guy will choose divorce instead of killing his wife. Think of the women you saved.
With a smile on her lips, Etienne reached out to Phineas to help him stand up. The man, however, was still sitting, staring at the door behind which the convict had disappeared. He was afraid that any movement would cause the contents of his stomach to land on the floor, and the girl smiling at him. Why was Marigold smiling? Out of stress.
You sound like you've been working in court for years. It's hard to believe that this is your first case. I forgot to congratulate you. You did a great job. Thank you, Marigold. You deserve a few days off.
I prefer to watch the execution. It's always a few more bones for the skeletons.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but our executioner has fallen ill and it is not known when he will return to work. Also, the execution will take place at the end of the month at the earliest.
A scythe appeared in Etienne's hands.
In that case, I offer my humble services. I vouch that I will perform the task quickly and in a fully professional manner.
You're joking, right? The executioner can only be a man and in his 30s. Your psyche.
It has survived dozens of attempts on my life, thousands of people killed on the battlefield, and hundreds of sentences handed down.
Etienne transformed herself into death. Her black garment rippled 2 feet above the ground. A scythe gleamed in her hand, and the void beneath her hood seemed to suck in the still air of the courtroom. Phineas stood up, tripped over a chair, and fell. Too terrified to speak up or run away, he stared at death from the perspective of the floor, and she glided unhurriedly toward him.
Then what will it be? Will you let me do what I'm good at? What gives me pleasure in this otherwise boring world?
Who are you?
Death, as you can see. For some reason, the elemental spirit has taken a fancy to my body and lives in it. Sometimes it can be funny, and sometimes it's useful. For example, when I want to take someone away. Well, and I don't have to perform annoying rituals to talk to the dead.
Go. Go away.
Satisfied with how the conversation was going, Etienne returned to her body, shrugged it off, and helped Phineas up. She noticed a wet spot on his robe at waist level, but she didn't comment on it. It had been a long time since she had seen someone so terrified because of meeting death.
I am not 15 years old. About 80, although I don't look like it. Death mages cultivate immortality, eternal youth, things like that, so don't be so surprised. Also, do not worry about my psyche, nothing can harm it. Rest, drink a glass of wine. Meanwhile, I'll cut few heads.
Singing a cheerful song, Etienne left the room and went down to the basement where the condemned were kept. From the memories of the gods, she learned that usually executions were held outside, but in this weather, no one wanted to leave the building. No one was looking forward to the spectacle, especially since the square in front of the courthouse had been turned into an aid station for freezing Centurions.
Marigold today replaces our executioner. Help her get ready and bring the condemned.
The man sounded a little squeakier than usual and wobbled on his feet, but he seemed to be in control of his emotions, at least until Etienne turned toward him. Her black eyes seemed so cold and inhuman that Phineas reflexively retreated all the way to the stairs.
How about here? At the end of the corridor? In the interrogation room? Will you lift the axe, girl? How old are you, eh?
Marigold has already worked as an executioner. I exceptionally agree to carry out the sentences in the building.
Phineas interjected, lest the girl once again prove that she is well suited to deprive people of their lives. He was glad that no one in Sintra would find out about Marigold's new profession. In the small and cold room, Etienne put on an executioner's apron and hood on top. She felt strange, different from when she went out on the battlefield to slaughter her enemies, different from when she sneaked up on them at night, and different from when she passed judgment in the Crystal Palace. In Sintra, she was following someone else's orders, simply earning her keep. She didn't feel guilty about killing people. 6 guards, Phineas, as a representative of the court, and 5 criminals, including 1 woman, gathered in the interrogation room. Etienne summoned her scythe. 5 corpses, and she could look around for more comfortable accommodation, or at least firewood. The thought crossed her mind to occupy Torden's tenement, but she gave up. There were too many people hanging around.
Torden. Sentenced to death for the murder of his wife.
One swish of the scythe and Torden's head rolled on the floor. The man standing closest to the corpse fell to his knees and began to cry.
I am innocent. I didn't kill anyone.
Lester. Sentenced to death for the murder of his employer.
No, I beg you. Have mercy.
But he is telling the truth. He was not even on the scene, and during the murder he was with employer's wife in her bedroom. He committed theft few times and damaged public property more than 10 times. But is this enough to beheaded him?
Etienne leant on her scythe. The man on his knees crawled over to Marigold and grabbed onto her apron.
The first person to believe me. Thank you, madam. Oh, thank you.
I only state the facts. The decision is up to the judge.
It was none of my cases. Challenging another judge's verdict would cause unnecessary ferment. Well, and we would have to have irrefutable evidence, which we currently do not have.
You have to choose peace of conscience or no tension at work. You know I will get the evidence. If you give me some time.
The discussion of guilt, or lack thereof, caused a huge stir among the convicted, who began to shout accusations against the judges presiding over their cases. Everyone suddenly felt innocent, wronged, framed, cheated. Only the woman remained silent.
Silence. Speak one at a time or not at all. Now we are analyzing Lester's case. Wait for your turn.
I will postpone the execution for 10 days. This will not arouse anyone's suspicions. I will apply for a change of the sentence only if you get the evidence. Camelia. Sentenced to death for the murder of her husband.
The guards escorted Lester to his cell, and Etienne watched the woman's memories filled with affairs with men younger than her. Romances that over time became more important than her family. More important than the husband who worked for her livelihood, not a very handsome but decent man.
A lover is missing. She prepared the poison, but her lover drugged the victim.
Camelia confessed to poisoning her husband. All the ingredients used to brew the poison were found in her room. Camelia, what do you have to say?
She drugged herself so she can't hear you. This makes her memories a bit fuzzy. Her husband suspected Camelia of having an affair. He had her followed. They decided that getting rid of Camelia's husband was the only way to live together.
Before Etienne could delve into the details of the crime, Phineas interrupted her.
Cut down Camelia.
One head was followed by 2 more. Without any announcement from the judge, the girl executed the criminals, sent back the scythe, and looked at her blood-stained shoes.
Again, to clean. Murder, beatings, extortion. Yes, everything is clear. 10 days is quite a lot. I will have enough time to clarify Lester's case, as long as your colleagues do not inundate me with trials.
Instead of looking for firewood in a frozen town, Etienne summoned a demon and asked him to gather the wood in the forest and to clean up the apartment, to boil some water for bathing and washing clothes. It was a pity that demons couldn't cook.